Hey folks, how's it going? So welcome to another one of the live classes by Voris, and I am here today to talk to you about buyer personas, which we'll get into in a second. But before we do, I'd love to see who's here, who's in chat, and if you could drop your name and where you are in the world, that'd be super helpful. I'd like to see how big of a spread we can get. And then secondly, I'd like to know if it's your first time doing one of these classes with me, or Kyle, or are you a repeat visitor? And I can see chat over here, which I'm looking over. So if you have questions along the way, drop them into chat and I will be able to get to them during our Q&A session. Today is Potsdam, New York. Very cool. Um, Thanks, Ryan. So today we're going to be diving into something that's going to be pretty, I guess, technical from a prompting standpoint. But we're going to create a lot of prompts. I'm going to give you the prompts that I have to create a very different type of buyer persona experience. So if that sounds good, I'm excited to get into it with you folks. So very cool. Okay, so it looks like a whole lot of people from Potsdam. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get into this. And the idea here is hopefully to give you as quick value as possible, and then go through some practical examples. I have one that I'm probably going to use Apollo for, but then if you would like me to run through this with your company in the Q&A session, drop your URL into chat, and we can do that. We can cover at least one company during the Q&A session. So with that said, let me go ahead and share my screen over here and get to this maybe. That's what we want. Okay. So we're going to get to this Notion doc in a sec. First, let's go ahead and do this. So as I mentioned earlier, we're brought to you by Voris, which is Kyle's company, and Kyle usually runs these. If this is your first time visiting, usually this is Kyle. I'm just filling in. My company's Stick and Grow, and I've been working with Kyle for a long time. I used to be the CMO over at Voris. Today, we're going to be talking about building buyer personas that actually close deals. Buyer personas, if you're in marketing, you might be rolling your eyes a little bit. I certainly do whenever I hear about buyer personas, but I think if the very rare occasion when they're gotten right, they're the secret weapon to a company. But 99% of the time, they're really just a waste of space. So if we haven't met yet, hey, what's up? My name's Dan. I've been a copywriter for a very long time, and I've written for all kinds of companies across the board, from small to big. I got my start as a grant writer in the UN, and then later transitioned into sales copy and digital marketing and whatnot. And I have also sold a whole lot of different stuff, everything under the sun, from clean tech over to, if you've heard my story about selling beer from a monastery, that was an interesting one. As I said, I used to be the CNX what I'm messaging, often with AI on LinkedIn, and basically creating funnels where you grow your email list, get sales calls and whatnot. And if you're interested in connecting, that's my LinkedIn URL. You can find me pretty easily. And that silly picture is what I have as my profile photo. So in case you're looking for the right Dan McDermott, that's this guy. So let's get into the problem here, folks. I'd love to really cover this is such a pet peeve of mine. So forgive me if I get fired up as we talked about this, because this is a really big issue that it's kind of like a blind spot that most people don't realize could be very powerful for them. However, this is the number one result. When you say buyer persona template, the number one thing that you get is a HubSpot sort of buyer persona builder. And while I love HubSpot for so many things, I think this is awful. I think this is really hurting the industry. You can go through this process. It asks you a bunch of questions. It lets you choose a silly avatar, and then you get this as the result. And you tell me, is this worth the paper it's digitally printed on? Is this worth anything to you? Here's the name, preferred method of communication, tools they need to do their job responsibilities, and then there's a couple other ugly slides that they have that basically don't tell me, if you could hand this to an SDR and say, go write a cold email, is this even remotely helpful? The answer is no, not even close. But this is the number one thing, the number one resource that gets pointed to. So clearly people use this, and that's not a good thing. The number two result is a little bit better. It's a Canva, it's a link to Canva, which gives you a bunch of templates to build buyer personas visually. And while this is slightly better, this is the number one template on Canva itself. So if you go look for buyer persona templates on Canva, this is the most popular one, I believe. And also, I mean, it looks, I guess, nice from a slide perspective, but look at how much bio is here, how much is in terms of goals, skills. And if you look at the other buyer persona templates, it's basically all the same boxes kind of rearranged with a couple different colors, a couple different photos. You tell me, is this something that is actually going to be useful to write cold emails, to write your cold call pitch, to do any sort of deeper strategy of, hey, between persona A and persona B, we should go with this slide versus this slide. I really hate this stuff when I see it, because I think that a lot of companies are setting their salespeople up and their marketers for total failure, because they say, okay, well, we did this. We built the buyer persona. Go use it. And the real sad part is that this is not going to work. And you're putting somebody junior usually in the firing line and saying, well, we gave you the research. Is this really research? Is this really in-depth stuff? I think not. So let's keep going here. The reason why I have such a big an issue with this is that they're static, not strategic. So that means they get made once and never used again. They're filled with vague demographics. This one is literally something I've seen. I've seen goal-oriented Sarah as a 38-year-old decision maker, who knows what kind, who owns a dachshund, literally saw that, and loves pistachio ice cream. Literally saw that. And unless we're selling pistachio ice cream or pet products, I couldn't care less, right? And it's psychobabble. I think that's the right term for it. If there's a lot of background noise, let me know in chat, because I'm hearing a lot of it. So let's keep going here. Nobody actually uses these to test copy, to train their sales folks, or improve strategy. And a good buyer persona can really do all three. It can come through when you're building your copy, when you're hiring people, when you're testing, when you're training. These, which we'll see in a second what a deep one looks like, these can be used everywhere. So instead of treating them like checkboxes, we should be treating them like tools that can be used in a variety of spaces. So number two, they're built on assumptions, not behavior. Big problem. They're usually built internally in a vacuum with a bunch of people around a desk sort of saying, okay, well, this is what I think they do. Not actual buyer persona or buyer research, buyer conversations. They're rarely updated based on actual data. And they end up reflecting the marketer's or the strategic person's insight, the founder's insight sometimes, but not what the buyer's actually going through. If you're interested, there's a great book called The Jobs to be Done methodology. I mean, in general, that methodology is the best for interviewing. This is what it looks like. It's a very thin book. You can get through it in an afternoon. I think it costs like $15. This changed my career, and I think that it's very, very powerful for anybody who's trying to get into the minds of your buyers. So check that out if you want to. Again, personas often reflect what we think the customer wants. Even if you don't know how to interview your customers, sometimes they subconsciously answer you the way that they think you want to be answered. It's almost like getting a question right in a test, instead of actually what went through their minds psychologically, emotionally. Then third here, they don't help you write better copy. There's no voice. The book title, John, it's The Jobs to be Done, the Handbook. And it's really, really excellent. It's this red version with a cup on it. And then it's got there we go. It's by Chris Speak and Bob Lesso. And really anything around jobs to be done is very helpful for interviewing people and creating material for your team to actually write copy from. That's the thing, is most people don't realize that professional copywriters really have a lot of research that they should be doing to write for you. And usually that's completely missing when people create these one-dimensional shallow pieces. So again, no voice, no opinion, no tension. As salespeople, we are trying to solve problems for people. And if you don't know the problem, you don't know the tension, what are you going to do for folks? They don't respond to messaging, so they don't improve it. So it's a one-time thing, and then that's it. It's never optimized. And then the result is your sales and marketing stays generic because you never stress test it. Right? It's just a one-time thing, and it never gets repeated or looped back. Then fourth here, they don't simulate the buying journey. There's no insight into specific trigger moments, evaluation paths, internal politics. As I'm going through these, you should see that your buyer persona should be covering all of these, really. There's no sense of timing, of resistance, of urgency, and you're left guessing why deals stall or messaging falls flat, right? It's really a pity. They describe who the buyer is, again, very statically, but not how they buy. And I think that's a very, very, very important part of this. Is your persona really zooming into how they buy? If you had a new person join your company, could they look at your buyer persona and go, oh, I really, really get it. I really understand how to sell to this person. That's the job your buyer persona should be building. I should be doing for you. And then finally here, fifth, nobody actually trusts them, including your own team, including yourself. I mean, it's an industry joke, actually. I mean, again, many people really just make fun of these. If I say buyer personas at a marketing conference, most people will be like, all right, buddy, there's the door. And that's because they aren't useful. They don't get used. Eventually, the persona doc becomes a joke or an excuse not to talk to real people. Sales don't use them. Leadership forgets they exist, and marketing stops updating them. Huge problem. Again, if I can emphasize that enough, and I hope I've made my case there. These are the 5 reasons why these docs usually are just totally fall flat and are a total waste of time. Well, they usually are generated in a couple of minutes and don't go anywhere. So instead of that, oh, actually, yes, let me dive deeper into the actual cost. So you'll end up with bad copy, bad ads, bad demos, bad training material, bad idea of who your customer is across the board in your company. You're going to burn time and ad dollars taking it to the wrong people, talking to the wrong people, sorry. And then a sales rep basically will waste their discovery calls on unqualified buyers. They might even have a weak idea of what the persona goes through until putting in the time, their 10,000 hours speaking to that one person before they actually get good. We don't want to waste 10,000 hours, right, with a sales rep. You want that person to be set up from success from the beginning. And then finally here, your marketing sounds generic because you're literally just guessing off the back of a crappy doc. No good, right? Instead of all that, let's go through this here instead. Hey, Jeffrey, nice to see you. I want you to think about building this type of thing. What I'm going to show you is mine. I'm going to give you the prompt. I'm going to give you have the full thing, and it's a pretty deep one. But before zooming into like, oh, I need to copy paste everything that Dan's talking about, I want you to think about what we're doing here. The first thing is to take this buyer persona and build a really deep one. You can totally edit my process. You can totally kind of replace it and do your own if you want, but you need to have one standalone buyer persona template that you've created for your company that you can really rely on, because that thing, like I said, can be used everywhere in your sales and marketing and strategy. But if you're also going to use the ChatGPT process that I'm going to walk you through, you need to have that thing first. The reason that many ChatGPT inspired conversations, again, sort of fall flat is that we're not starting with enough context to give the AI enough stuff to work with. And if you just sort of say, here's a 2-line buyer persona, again, that Sarah's 38 years old and likes pistachio ice cream and has a dachshund, you're not going to get good results with your AI. The AI is just as good as the material you feed it. The better the material, the better the prompting, the better your output will be. So if you've tried this once and it hasn't worked very well, don't give up on it. Try mine out, see what I'm doing here, and then by all means, try to make it better or make it more adapted to your needs. So again, buyer persona first, that's a standalone piece. And then that feeds into 4 specific types of conversations that I want to have. I want to have a multi-turn role play potential. This is something where you can use it to role play, again, to train, to experiment with new ideas. Even in your interviewing, maybe you want to role play and do some of that stuff with folks you're talking to. And multi-turn is the key. That took me a while to figure out. So there's that. And then there's the objections generator. I want the AI to really understand or really give you good, thoughtful objections that you might face in the real world. This is often overcome. Usually AI is too nice to us and wants to speak to us the way we want to be spoken to, I suppose. And it's almost too polite. So there's one little prompt trick that is literally a one-liner that we put in that will overcome that and give you very direct and honest feedback. Then third, there's message testing, where you're going to put this out there and then let it. It's almost like product testing. If you're out there, you have these. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name of this. But where you have a bunch of random users and sitting around a table going through a product and describing their experiences, what they like, what they don't like. Having a conversation like this might uncover some really cool stuff. And then finally, buyer strategic insights. That's, maybe a higher level version of the message testing. I like having both though, because they give you slightly different types of outputs. So with all that said, I hope that's clear. If you'd like me to go through this process I'm about to go through, just hypothetically with Apollo, just drop your URL into chat and we can, Kim, I see you put in SpiceX, that's great. Anybody else who wants their URLs done, just drop them in chat here and we can, I'll get to them in our Q&A session. Let's go through this example here and whoops, sorry. Let's go back. Here's well, actually, let me go through the example before giving you the prompts. This is a little teaser. So let me go into ChatGPT. And I think the best one to do this with is going to be Apollo. I like it because it's, sales folks should know Apollo. And Whoops, that's not it. Apollo.io. That's it. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab the first prompt, which again, I'll share all this with you all here. But you'll see these are a little bit intense. And what I want here is I want you to use your own URL in this process. So let's say that I'm pretending to be a sales rep at Apollo or somebody at Apollo who's going to pop this in. So here's the prompt, which is basically, you can see, I want it to, I'm going to input the website basically. Based on the website, it should infer who, why, what, and where basically that you should be speaking to. It then creates an output format for you. It then creates 7 basic or big questions, sorry, 8 big questions, 5 big questions, geez. And then the guidelines are basically there to also kind of keep the jargon down, make them opinionated, even slightly jaded. I think this is a really good addition that I added here that uses, you'll see the level of output it creates. And then example use cases is everywhere. And I want it to start with this message, which is please give me your URL basically, right? So we're going to go here, pop the URL from Apollo in here. And let's see who it says we should target. Again, this is the buyer persona part of things. And let me zoom in a little bit so you can see this properly. And by the way, folks, there's going to be a survey at the end of this. I keep forgetting to say it, but it's very important for us to get feedback from you. So please stick around for the survey link and let me know how what you thought of this and then what we can do for next time. Okay, so the output. So for Apollo, the prospect that we generated is the head of sales at a mid-sized B2B SaaS company specializing in marketing automation solutions. The role is to drive revenue growth by leading a team of account executives and sales development representatives to identify and close new business opportunities. I focus on all this stuff. Very cool. So that's, I think, very accurate. We should be focusing on a head of sales. So what they're responsible for, okay, and then boom, boom, boom. I'm not going to read every line here, but you can see that it's again, spot on. What they're struggling with right now. Again, the right now is a key part of building really good personas. So lead quality, data accuracy, scalability. Anybody in here who's in sales should be nodding their head pretty hard at this. So why I'm looking for help. Maybe they missed some targets. Maybe team morale is dropping. Maybe they have more aggressive growth goals. Here's what I've tried and didn't work. They've purchased lead lists in the past. They've done some manual prospecting, multiple point solutions. Here's what I'd love to see in a vendor, comprehensive data, et cetera, these features. Top objections in their own words. So accuracy, is this going to integrate? Is it user-friendly? What's the ROI? Here's the buying journey. Industry blogs, webinars, seeking recommendations on LinkedIn, shortlisting, demo requests. So, and then a little bit of their personality. So this is very, very, I think already a good outcome that you can use in your own work that should have an impact immediately. But I want you to see the difference between that and this stupidity, okay? This. I can't do anything off the back of this. I can't even begin to write copy to convince somebody for something. I can't begin to start speaking to their problems. However, here, I absolutely can. So with that said, let's keep going here and let us go into our next prompt, which is the multi-turn role play. And if anybody's interested, I'm happy to go deeper into the actual, why is this being difficult? Let me go into Notion. I'm happy to go into more detail if you'd like about the actual prompting and the thinking behind the prompting, because this definitely it's a little bit of an acquired skill. But so feel free to let me know in chat if you want to do any more of that. Okay, let's keep going here. So I'm in character as Jason Mendez, head of sales at a mid-sized B2B SaaS companies. It's Thursday afternoon. I just wrapped 2 back-to-back pipeline reviews, and I've got 15 minutes before my next call. I've got Slack going wild, but I'm here, headset on, coffee half cold, trying to figure out if you're worth a line item in next quarter's budget. Okay, go ahead, give me your pitch. Let's see what you've got. So let's do this, and let's go to another ChatGPT conversation just for the sake of it. This is where you would drop your pitch, your cold call script, your cold emails, something like that. So I'm going to say here, please write a sales pitch for Jason Mendez, head of sales. Obviously, I'm just doing this to be quick, but you would use your own thing here that you've developed. On behalf of Apollo.io. Let's see if that. So it writes a pretty standard looking, half decent, I'd say 50% there message. So let's just grab this and run with it. Let's go back to the buyer persona conversation, pop this in, and then let's see what it comes back with. Hopefully you see that the tone in this conversation is totally different than most ChatGPT conversations. This is I think some pretty interesting stuff. So appreciate the context, but let me stop you right there. I've seen a lot of platforms pitch the same contact database and sequences and analytics combo. Everyone says they're the most accurate, the most complete, the most integrated. So I'm going to need some more than just some name drops and feature lists. A couple things off the bat. I'm interested in data quality and real integration. And third, look, I'm not switching tools until there's a clear ROI. So if you're telling me 30 to 40% more meetings in 90 days, I need to see exactly how. So let's cut to it. Why are those teams getting results? What's different about how they're using Apollo versus what I've already got down with Zoom Info and Outreach? Now, here's where, if you're doing this internally, this is where you should go back and forth and have some real conversations. I'm just going to do one here, but this is geared, basically this type of chat, you could have an endless conversation with it right now, and it would continue to be a pretty difficult customer, but one that you should know how to get through. So I'm just going to do one just for the sake of this example. Let's say we're third party rated most accurate, and we integrate with more systems than anyone else out there. I have let's say a 7-minute demo video that walks through the exact 4-step process that you'd use to get to the results we promise, which are, and I'm totally making this up, obviously, 30% plus more meetings than you're currently landing each month. Okay, but you just kind of repeated the pitch. This is what I love about it. It really, really, really pushes. So everybody says they're accurate. None of it says why this would really be believable. Be specific. Walk me through an actual workflow. Da, 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 da. And then, so I'm going to keep going on the prompting, but I hope you see like how challenging that this type of prompt can be for your conversation. If you start stumbling along, if you start having trouble with it, then this is a sign that you should have this really worked out so that you can answer these tough questions. So that's number one here. Let me go back to Notion and grab our objections generator. And that role play thing is something you can prep and just give, again, people you're interviewing, people you're training, people who are maybe underperforming and need a little bit of a perk up. And I think it can be used in a bunch of places. So this one is, again, for, let's see here. I love some of the language about this. I'm kind of nerding out a little bit about some of this, but getting to the objections list is really important. And you can do this in a quicker way and just feed ChatGPT your URL and say, give me some objections that a head of sales would have. But this is way better. So it's organized into a couple different types of objections. Here are 2 emotional objections. Honestly, I'm just tired of onboarding new tools and overpromise. So overpromising keeps coming up with this guy. If this thing slows my team down even a little, I'll hear about it immediately. So these are the real concerns keeping this person up at night. So rational objections, you say 35 plus million plus contacts, but how many of them are actually relevant to my ICP? I need a sniper rifle, not a fire hose. Interesting. I already have Zoom Info, Outreach, and Salesforce. Are you saying that I should replace all 3? Then some organizational and political objections. So RevOps is going to throw a fit if this messes with Salesforce. I mean, literally, I've heard a very similar line to this. I can't sell this internally without a clear defensible ROI. Again, I think that's something that if Apollo doesn't have this ready to go and some sort of deck and some sort of video, then clear problem. Let me be clear, I want something better, but I've been burned and I've got internal politics, skeptical reps, and an already fragile stack to manage. You're not just selling me a tool, you're selling me fewer headaches. If that's not obvious upfront, I'm out. So again, this is really, really powerful stuff, I think, to sort of get in the headspace of what this person is going to come to the table with objections-wise, and how, therefore, you should be preparing for these conversations. You can create landing pages, you can create speaking points, you can create battle cards, you can create all kinds of stuff that would solve this. Well, let's keep going here. And Peter, yes, I'm sharing the Notion doc once I go through one example. I'll send you the link to it. And here's the message testing. Let's go into here. And just a quick check-in as I'm loading this in. People finding this helpful? Can you just let me know? Is this something that's actually you can see yourself using? Just give me a thumbs up or a yes or something if so, or a no, I guess. So let's go in and paste another message. So right, oops, another message from Jason. Write me another 2, let's say, messages from Jason. Make one a sales email and one a nurture email. Okay, thanks, folks. That's helpful. Okay, so here's the outbound sales message. And here's the nurture email as it's being written. And again, I'm not really reviewing these, and obviously you should, but this is just for the sake of speed. Let's pop this in back into here. Here's some messaging. Okay. I screwed that up. I need to go back. Whoops. Sorry, my mistake. I meant to ask for 2 messages aimed at Jason from Apollo. One should be a sales email and one should be a nurture email. So what happens when you move too quick? So let's get this done. I'm going to stop that. And let's keep going here. Circling back, what a nice term. Let's keep going. Okay, so that's here. Let's go back to here. Sorry, I gave you the wrong messaging. Please use these email examples instead. Okay. So yes, reading these as Jason Mendez, head of sales at a mid-sized B2B SaaS company. Here's their take. So gut reaction. Okay, it's not the, but I really want to emphasize this. The tone of this is totally different than anything that I believe most people have seen. And I think that that's a very, very interesting way to sort of head up your potential for how you can have AI as this really smart assistant. So, okay, it's not the worst thing. It's written for a persona, not a real person, though. That's what it feels like. You're just checking boxes. It's clean, but I can feel the template under the hood. I totally agree. And it's okay. And then this one's softer. Don't assume I'm ready to jump, but just circling back, which is what I sort of joked about as it was writing, always makes me groan a little. And what felt relevant, if anything, the without adding headcount line hit. That's real. So this stuff is really, really good. We need the stuff that's bad and the stuff that's good to sort of float and sync. I also appreciated the mention of ClickUp and Deal. I know teams at both. That gives me a little bit more credibility. Great. What felt generic or lazy, and then it has a couple of absolutely sort of, it's not necessarily jargon, but it's kind of filler copy. And then the checkmark list makes it feels like a sales deck slid into my inbox. It's trying to be helpful, but it comes off a bit copy paste. Really good feedback. And by the way, you can see how you can talk back and forth between conversations even, so between separate threads. What's missing, what I really want is a quick peek under the hood. Not a full demo, but give me a link to a 2-minute Loom or a one-pager that shows how you help reps prioritize and engage. Right now, you're asking me to do this without giving me much to evaluate. Also, why are you reaching out to me specifically? Is it something about our team size, where we were hiring? Why us? Why now? Would you respond to this? Maybe and probably not. So that's not great. If it was in our outbound's not working kind of weak, then I'd probably forward it to my sales op lead and say, is this worth looking at? But otherwise, this will get skimmed and archived. So again, you could respond to this conversation and say, okay, I'm interested in point number 5. Would you respond? I appreciate your feedback. What would make you respond? Or write me an email that you would respond to. So you can do all kinds of stuff that you can get crazy with this. And then here's a bonus, kind of rewrite the subject line or the opening hook. It's okay. I think it's interesting for sure. It gives you options. And again, the emphasis on show me the gap that I don't know I have. Make it feel like a no-brainer to see how others are solving it. That's what would get me on a call. Very interesting. So let's keep going here. And hopefully this is all still relevant. We're almost there. Last one is this guy here, the buyer strategic insights, which I think has one of the most important things to include in your buyer persona, which is the timing. So let's go into this. And I really love this output. I tested this a bunch of times before this particular live class, and I really think there's a really cool couple things you could go even deeper on, frankly. So this trigger moment is exactly where I think we should, or I want to emphasize, you should be looking for the psycho-emotional reasons why people are looking to buy from you. It's not just logically, A to B, you should do this. It's why specifically did this person go to start searching around? So this is obviously hypothetical, it's just an example, but trigger moment. We had a quarter where the top of the funnel just dried up, pipeline was thin, reps frustrated, and I found myself in back-to-back forecast meetings, basically defending hope. I had one AE misquoted by 40% and another threatening to leave because marketing's not sending us anything good. All of this should be super familiar to anybody who's ever been on a sales team. The worst part is they went wrong. It's funny. I remember staring at our outreach report and realizing we wasted hundreds of hours chasing leads that never had a shot. That was the moment. It's not a fire drill, just a quiet, sick feeling in my gut. We're doing a lot of work for not much return, and I don't have a goddamn lever to pull. So I think that this is the stuff that we want to. This is what a buyer persona should be speaking like to you, at least. So what I do first, so they'll start asking around quietly, right? They'll DM 2 or 3 other heads of sales around. This is exactly what happens, by the way. Usually folks at similar stage SaaS companies who build good outbound engines, something like, hey, what's actually working for you right now? Not theory, just real, not theory, just real stuff. Also scan LinkedIn, not ads, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm not going to the website yet. I want to know how they did it before I care what they used. Super important point. What makes me pay attention? Show me something real. Show me a screenshot, 30-second Loom, all that stuff. What I need to believe. I need to believe this will layer onto our stack. I need to believe my team will actually use it. I need to believe the data is trustworthy, and I need to believe that I can defend the cost with hard numbers. Very, very relatable, in my opinion. Who else gets involved? Again, this is very helpful if you are doing some multi-persona selling. And I think this is absolutely, again, spot on for this case. Why I might walk away? If the value prop is vague or sounds too good to be true, if the onboarding looks heavy or disruptive, or if my AE team senses that this is just more noise. These things must be addressed in your cold email or your cold call script. So what pushes me over the edge to say yes? It's that moment where I can visually see how this would make my team faster, sharper, and more confident. If you're on LinkedIn these days, you've probably seen people sharing a lot of flow charts and that kind of thing. There's a reason those things work. They actually visualize a otherwise sort of ethereal, theoretical process. So if I see the Loom video case study and it actually looks usable, that's the hook. Interesting. That's when I Slack my ops leader. Hey, can you vet this? Feels worth a look. I love how real this all feels to me. And I hope that's also all helpful. That's how I buy. It's part instinct, part math, and a lot of internal politics. You've got to help me see the win, make me believe it's real, and not make me look like an idiot for suggesting it. Do that, and I'll champion the hell out of it. I love the tone. I love the output. I love everything about this. and I'll share this in this conversation in chat, and then I'll share the link to the actual Notion doc. So feel free to use that. And let me zoom back to here and go back to our slideshow. And then let me pop this into chat here. This is the chat I just completed with Apollo as the example. So you can grab that there. And then let me keep going on to, I'll get to your question in a sec. So let's go through another, well, actually, before I do that, let's get into the Q&A session, which I'll do in a sec. But I just want to let you know that if you'd like me to do this for your company and go even deeper, because I have another set of, probably another 5 or 6 of these that are very, very helpful to build the stuff out. You can just grab some time with me for free, and we can do some stuff. This is what I do on LinkedIn for folks. And then what I'd really appreciate before we move on is this survey. This is very, very important for not only knowing how you like this particular topic and the way that I present it, but also for future topics. We want to really get feedback from you all. What is pressing for you right now that we can build, presentations and classes around, hopefully that are actually valuable. Kyle usually covers everything from strategy, leadership, business building, and cold call scripts and all that kind of good stuff. I tend to handle some more of the copywriting stuff. So with that said, let's jump into some Q&A, and let me get you the Notion link. Yes, where's this Notion link? Here we go. Here's the Notion link, and let's go ahead and look at a couple of examples. So let me just take a look at who's in chat and what questions have been asked. I see that you've linked to, I believe, the Jobs to Be Done handbook. Thanks for that, Lucas. That's helpful. Lauren, I see that you're on Lexi Consulting, so we can pop that up again. I know SpiceX folks came in first, so I'll grab them. This, and let me see if there's any other big questions to cover. If you have other questions just about prompting or AI or buyer personas, let me know. And then on the Notion doc, you can make a duplicate of this. What should show up is this here. And then you can just hit this button over here on the top right to duplicate it for yourself. This little button here that has the 2 boxes, I guess, stacked boxes. So let's keep going here. And let me see SpiceX. Let's pull you guys up and see what we can come up with. SpiceX.com. You almost saw my favorite Indian restaurant that I like to order my delivery from, Spice Room. Okay, SpiceX. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with the first, start a new chat. By the way, I'm using, one thing I want to point out, I'm using 4.0 for this particular type of stuff. Technically, 4.5 is supposedly good for writing and exploring ideas. I'll be honest, 4.0 just does a better job. So you can experiment with different stuff if you want. The others are better for, I think, coding and other stuff, but 4.0 is my favorite for writing right now and for analysis. So let's get into this. Let me grab the prompt first. Let's go to the persona builder. And then I'm just going to go through the persona builder for a couple of the companies, and hopefully you folks at SpiceX can continue to do the rest of these prompts as with everybody. I just like to go through and do this for a couple of folks. So let's start here. And then it should say, give me your URL. There we go. Had to think there for a second. All right. I'm the director of operations at a mid-sized contact center specializing in customer support for various clients across industries. My role involves overseeing daily operations, and et cetera, et cetera. So SpiceX folks, let me know if this is spot on. I think it is. I believe I know your company, so I think this is correct. But you let me know. And then here, the buying journey, how I talk and think, the top objections here. So I think this is pretty cool. This is pretty accurate. You let me know if this is on for you guys. And then let me just pop a couple more in here. Let me go through actually just the one level of the, by the way, you can go out of order with the prompts that I gave you. I prefer to do it in order, but just for the sake of it, let's jump past the role play and Let me go into the objections part. So you can pick and choose from this. I want to really emphasize this, folks, is that you shouldn't look at this as like some sort of really fancy product that I've created and you can't touch any of it because it's going to break everything. You should be trying out different stuff. Do it backwards, but just start with the persona always. So here are some objections. And again, SpiceX folks, tell me if this is accurate or not, but I'm tired of getting pitched transformation when what I really need is something that just quietly works. We've had 3 different vendors in the last 2 years promising to streamline ops. Each one became a whole thing and they couldn't deliver on the big claims. I don't want another shiny dashboard. I want something my team actually uses. If I bring another tool that flops, I'm the one who looks like a fool. Honestly, I don't have the headspace for another clunky onboarding. So let me know how you feel about those. The rational ones, you say you unify things, and let me just see what you say. Yeah, let me just grab that for you real quick and grab this here. And then while I'm here, I'm also going to drop the survey link. So again, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, guys, just reach out on LinkedIn. I'm easy to get in touch with. And here's the survey. Please, please, please fill this out. This is so important. And if you guys want me coming back, Kyle's got to see that there's some good reactions. And give me your honest reactions, obviously. But let me go back to here. So rational objections, organizational and political ones. IT is going to push back hard unless there's a clear security and compliance clearance. My agent's already switching tabs. This isn't frictionless. Adoption will tank. Interesting. This doesn't directly move the needle on SLAs or CSAT. It's hard to sell to leadership. So all those should be pertinent, and you should probably, frankly, have content that addresses each one of these somewhere. It could be an article. It could be some social posts. It could be all kinds of stuff. So thanks, Graham. Let's keep going here. Maybe we can do one more of these and then get to this one. So as you see, I'm skipping around a little bit. Let's get to this, and then let's see what kind of insights it might be able to give us. Okay, full picture, no filler. The trigger moment. We had a client escalation that could have been avoided again, but one of our agents spent 12 minutes bouncing between 4 different tools just to get to the customer's full history. Meanwhile, the customer was getting more frustrated by the second. We missed our SLA, the client flagged it, and I got a Slack from their VP asking if we were, quote unquote, still committed to being a strategic partner. That hit hard, and I can tell you that hit hard to me too. So that was the moment I sat back and thought, this is broken. I'm done duct taping it. I need something else. It wasn't just one call. It was a slow burn of inefficiency catching fire. I love some of these terminologies or some of these phrasing, some of these whatever. I felt angry, embarrassed, and a little helpless. We've outgrown our system and our systems, and it's costing us now. So what I do first, again, a lot of the times they're going to people who they trust. They don't trust Google because it's too much fluff, too much SEO garbage. Maybe they go to G2 or something. What makes me pay attention? You show me a visual, right? Again, so common issue coming up here. What I need to believe that this will require full org to implement. I need to believe that they'll like it. I need to believe that I'll see impact in 30 days. So again, can you prove it? The answer is probably incredibly yes, you can. You can put together some stats. I need to believe that your team will own the rollout. Again, this might be in a case study or something, but all of these points you should be creating content for. So who else gets involved? The gatekeeper, interesting. Finance as well. So really good. Then why I might walk away. So all the stuff is very, very, I think, pertinent to the SpiceX folks. I hope that's helpful for you. And let's keep going here. Let me go into what other questions popped up here. Sorry, guys, my contacts are acting up, so I need to zoom in a little bit. So Graham, Dan, have you tried Super Whisper, the speech to text, so you can talk to your LLM and not have to type? I love it. So I actually talk to ChatGPT all the time. This button over here will take me to a voice chat in the bottom right here, and then I can speak to it. I go for walks and talk to it. And I look like a nutcase walking around the park here, but it's I think, very, very helpful. Let's keep going here. So recordings, I'll send out an email maybe over the weekend, and if Kyle's okay with me sharing the recording, I'll share it. Then let's see here. Emma says, it's a little confusing how you're using a B2B salesperson as the example target, since we're also a B2B salesperson. Maybe next time use a different example so it's clear who the target is and who the person is making a pitch. So hopefully that was covered here. This is a very different persona. This is somebody who's not in B2B sales. but I take your point, Emma. I think that's good feedback. Let's see here. Link to Notion, Ryan. You should have it in your hands right now. So let me know if you don't. See, Puzzle HR. I'd love to see this. This sounds interesting. Go to Puzzle HR. Puzzle HR. Visit.com. Yes. So let's grab this. Well, let's grab the first one over here. In your chat. And SpiceX folks, let me know, and I'll send you the chat if you'd like it. And let's go to Notion, the Persona Builder. And other thing that I want to call out that some people are probably thinking is that yes, you can build this into a custom GPT, one of these guys over here. But honestly, I think the conversation flow like this actually works better. So I would try both if you're up for it. So let's go to here, pop this in here. And then Mike, let me know if this is accurate and helpful for you here. Then we can start to wrap up. Who I am, I'm the Director of Human Resources with this many people. I strive to create a supportive environment, et cetera, et cetera. What I'm responsible for, so the whole department running smoothly, aligning with business objectives, and this includes all these points. What I'm struggling with, time, complexity, compliance complexity, talent acquisition challenges, benefits management. That's a common one I actually talked to somebody about yesterday. Payroll accuracy. Why I'm looking for help. I'm overwhelmed by admin tasks, the risk of non-compliance, and the need for specialized expertise. Probably sounds accurate. What I've tried is in-house management. The lack of resources led to burnout and mistakes. Generic software, but it lacked the customization and support needed for our industry. Consultants, but the recommendations were too generic and not actionable within our company's context. So what I'd love to see in a vendor, comprehensive stuff, proactive, scalable, dedicated, etc. I think those are all good. So this one feels slightly more generic, but I think it'll still work nicely. Let me grab one more here and go to the objections over here. Going into objections and problems usually gets you to a much better place pretty quickly. So let's try this. So I want to call out, if you do this for multiple personas, because you probably sell to multiple personas, what you end up having is a bunch of buyer, and I'll come back to this in one sec here, Mike, for your example. But what I think is very interesting is if you have a bunch of these guys, the right is here, but if you have them like these done, what you can do is let's say that you have 4 of them. Let's say you have these four. What you can do is pop them and download as a PDF, download as a PDF, download as a PDF, basically create 4 PDFs or create 1 PDF, however you want to see it, and then give that to ChatGPT, and then continue the conversation with the prompting that I'm giving you and say, okay, here are 4 detailed personas that I have. I want you to compare them and tell me if I could only send out one campaign for the rest of this year, who should I prioritize? Who should I focus on? ChatGPT specifically is really, really, really excellent. It's not very good at writing copy, but it's very good at giving you relative comparisons and analysis. So just one idea for you to think of. You should be building multiple of these, and don't just rely on one of them just because it's the first one that ChatGPT gave you, okay? And eventually you should have all of these done for everybody. So with that said, some of the objections that Mike's probably facing, I can't afford the stuff or I can't afford any mistakes. I've outsourced before and I got burned. How exactly is this better than hiring another solid HR generalist in-house? What does implementation really look like? And then this is very common. I think it's on me if it doesn't work. And then again, ROI. What's the ROI? How do you prove it? I think so many companies need to have this done. A calculator, examples, evidence, proof. But ROI is a really, really specific one. So Mike, I'll share this with you. Hopefully you can continue the chat and then keep going here, make it even better. And I think that's all we have time for. Lexi Consulting, if you'd like, just shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I'll shoot you a Loom video with it here. And I can, Raphael, you asked if there's a recording. Like I said, I'll check with Kyle and send out over the weekend. And anybody who has popped in their URLs, like Gerard and anybody else, please let me know. And I can, again, I'll shoot you a little video with this stuff. I want everybody to be covered, basically. So just follow up on LinkedIn with me, please. Shoot me a message, and then I'll film this for you, and then you should be on point. So Mike says that, okay, that was on point. That's good to know. And one more time, folks, I know I sound like a broken record, but please, please, please fill out the survey. So important to hear from you and get your thoughts. We read literally everything that comes through. This is one of the most valuable Airtables that we have, and I know that Kyle puts a ton of emphasis on this. And of course, if you don't know about this yet, future events are all listed on voris.com/events. So keep an eye out on LinkedIn. Follow Kyle, follow me. We're always talking about the next upcoming class. And with that said, we're transitioning. You had 3 weeks of me in a row. Next week is Kyle. He'll be back to the good old stuff. And in the meantime, I wish you all a fantastic rest of your Thursday. I really appreciate you spending 50 minutes with me in the middle of your day on a Thursday. You didn't have to do that, but it was nice seeing you. And then, yeah, like I said, reach out on LinkedIn. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week, rest of your weekend as well, and into next week. And I hope you use this. If you do, let me know, please. I always like to hear back from people and hear what worked, what didn't work. All right, folks, take care. Speak soon. Bye-bye.